Hello, in this section we will talk about how to navigate through QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks Desktop. This is where many of the major differences will be between the two accounting software because many of the functions that the two software can do will be the same, but the look and feel will be very different between the online and desktop version. We're going to go through the major components that we use on a day-to-day basis in an accounting department for both versions. We're going to start with the desktop version and think through the home page and look at the home page that is provided with the desktop version because that gives a really good flow chart. It gives a feel by categories of what we're going to do in terms of the sales cycle or the receivable cycle, the vendor cycle, the payable cycle, and then the employees cycle. And we can think about things in those types of chunks. We'll see that flow chart provided here, and once we get a feel for that flow chart, then we'll look at the online version and look at the same components, where those components are found. They're typically found in a shortcut type window in the online version, but we don't usually have that kind of home page that gives that flow chart, which is fine because once we know the flow chart or have a visualization of the flow chart, then we may not need it anymore. But as we're starting through it, the flow chart would be nice. And then we have the other types of options, the banking section and the general section, which have some other things like the registers and the lists that are major components that are used to build QuickBooks and set up the QuickBooks program. And they're so major that they're in the home page, the most accessible component of the desktop version, and they're in many different components in the online version. One of the things with both of these, QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks Desktop, to note is that many of the functions we'll look at here will have multiple ways to get to them. For example, the desktop has the home page, but it also has drop downs, which will help to get to the same type of information. And it's good to know multiple ways to get to these functions, because when you work with other people, it's inevitable that everybody's going to get to things or think through things in a different way. And if we know the different formats to get to things, it's helpful. And the same is true for the online version. We have some shortcut areas which show all the functions, and then we have some other areas that are going to be more specialized, and there'll be more than one way to get to the same type of component. So as we go through and enter transactions, we will take a look at some of the different ways that we can get to these same areas in order to do the day-to-day input for the two accounting programs.